Coming up on Tekzilla, is there a new world's fastest processor ever? Loyd Case is back with Intel's Gulftown Monster. Veronica reviews the FitBit. We got 7 ways to recycle that old PC from MAME toy to hardcore security tool. And of course, some viewer question action. So rip the pit out of that avocado and whip up some guacamole, because Tekzilla starts now. This episode of Tekzilla is made possible by GoToMeeting, Dice, and Squarespace. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Tekzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Whether you're a beginner, tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or the best way to feed greens to a toddler, we've got an answer for you.
A funnel. And if we don't, we'll track down someone who does. Actually, it works really well in the smoothie.
Yeah, smoothie form?
Smoothie with spinach.
Ooh.
No, it tastes better than it sounds, trust me. I finally downloaded my digital copy of Zombieland.
Ooh, Zombieland.
My current favorite movie. Do you ever get one of those in Blu-ray where it's like enter in your code?
No.
It was the most surreal thing.
Oh, you know, I did one time. I can't remember what movie it was for, though. I did see the code, though. That's cool.
Well, it's like, gives you the code, which I'm not going to show up here, but the digital copy, I was actually really annoyed. The digital copy was on a second disc that came with the Blu-ray, but it took, you need your iTunes account to unlock it, and then it downloads it, it copies it off the DVD. It was 1.2 gigabytes. If you're gonna,
That makes sense for DVD quality.
But that's like 1/3 of the space on a DVD. Come on, a little more bandwidth would have been nice. Seeing as how it used, I'm not even downloading. It's not costing anybody. You printed the disc. It's paid for. By the way, rule number 1 of surviving Zombieland: cardio. Rule number 2, the double tap. Don't get all stingy with your bullets. Avoid becoming a human Happy Meal.
So was it worth all that effort for the digital copy?
I have a copy on my desktop of my computer, and I can loan this to Roger.
Or me. I haven't seen it yet either.
Roger's first in line.
You told me last week that I was going to get... No, wait. What did you tell me I could watch last week? You had a disc, and you said I could watch it. And then you took it. No, it wasn't you. It was my other job. Never mind. Now for something completely different. LTE long-term evolution promises a 100 megabit per second max download speed for 4G wireless networks. T-Mobile and AT&T are holding off on 2011 before they roll out their LTE networks. Verizon will be rolling out LTE in 25 odd cities later this year. They've been testing an early version in Boston and Seattle, and claims a real connection in a populated network should average 5 to 12 megabits down and 2 to 5 megabits up.
Want right now. Yes.
And if you're in the middle of nowhere or getting your 4G modem on at 3 a.m., you could max out 40 to 50 megabits per second downstream, 20 to 25 megabits up. Yeah, that's not too far ahead of the HPSA plus 3G network T-Mobile is launching.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not that far ahead. It's like a little faster.
Why are they testing it in San Francisco?
Nobody tested it in San Francisco because San Francisco has conclusively proved it can crush any new network technology.
Exactly, we should stress test.
The problem is actually all the rock in the hills makes us the RF.
You know, I try to I keep telling people that, and they're like, no, that's not why. That's not really why. I'm like, no, it is. There is a geographical problem with living in a city that is full of giant hills.
Giant rock-filled hills. Much like living in parts of West Virginia where they have giant rock-filled hills.
Stupid hills.
Now, Kansas, that's a nice flat place.
Nice and flat.
Good
Connecticut
for the RF.
Was pretty
Eastern
flat
Colorado.
Too. Connecticut was pretty nice and flat.
But the population density isn't super low.
No, it's
because when you get
high.
like flat, empty space and low population density, you get superior
less density
bandwidth.
of iPhone users, though.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Well. Anyway.
Kill an iPhone user, download faster.
See how that all works out? Anyway, Jose is looking for something to do with an old PC to keep it out of the landfill. Jose writes, I have this Pentium 4 PC just thrown in a corner doing nothing.
Aww.
Instead of selling it, I thought I might just recycle it and turn it into an old school arcade machine, bringing back to life not only my out-of-use PC, but those games that are close to forgotten. I got this MAME that I find is great, but now I'm looking for an easy-to-configure front end, joysticks and buttons that complete the experience. I know there's a community on the subject, but I'd really like your suggestions and, if possible, the cheapest ones. Wouldn't it be cool if you guys build one just for the fun of it, or show other ways on how to recycle old PCs? Saludos from Santiago, Chile. Jose.
I've built one. Actually, I take that back. David Randolph built one. look,
Is this what's left of it?
Well, we built a MAME cabinet, and then somebody cracked the monitor, so Dave took it apart to save space in the studio. It was not
somebody
me.
cracking
Not me.
Okay.
Not me. Don't even joke about that. I wept. I was also on vacation. I love recycling old PCs, and we'll talk about some options of that in a second.
It's nice that you have an alibi for that.
No, it's true.
Like, I was on vacation. I didn't break the
I was
screen.
out of the state. For anyone that doesn't know what a MAME cabinet is, do you want to explain?
Yeah, sure. A MAME is also known as a multiple arcade machine emulator, and it's a way to play classic video games on a cheap PC hardware. It runs copies of the ROM chips that held the software in stand-up arcade machines, which I understand were very common when you and Roger were still young. You had to like go to the mall and actually go to a place where all those machines were to play video games.
Well, it was either that or play Pong.
You know, you had to get there on your horses, because cars, and you couldn't play them online. None of that stuff was invented yet.
Well, the internet was available. I just had to go to college to get access to it.
Oh, are you sure? They had college then?
They had college then.
Oh, fancy.
Fancy that.
Now that we have the internet to find files on and cheap PCs, as well as lots of gaming nostalgia, you can build a MAME cabinet, which is pretty much a full-on classic gaming cabinet with arcade-style controls and a MAME box stuffed inside.
So, look, the easiest way to get classic controls, the stuff you're looking for, Jose, is to pony up $130 for one X Arcade's dual joysticks. It's got all the buttons you need for almost every game out there, along with a joystick, and there's side-by-side for 2 players. Let's see if we can get. We should borrow one so we can battle.
Doing like Street Fighter button mashing style.
I know, which means you'll be easy prey.
The coolest thing I ever saw was a Street Fighter Fight Club that we covered actually for Core, and they had a whole room, a whole like outdoor garage filled with old school arcade Street Fighter units, and these kids were insane. Like they built the whole cabinets, they got all their own button things, so even when they played on the console version, they had their own, you know, joysticks and buttons to push instead of using the controls.
Nice.
And they are the best players I've ever seen in my life. It was totally sick. But anyway, I digress. Back to you.
If you dedicated your life to Left 4 Dead and had your parents support you while you were living in the garage, you could be the world's finest video gamer too.
I know.
So all you gotta do is quit your life and move back home. Anyhow, the X Arcade, it's got the USB jack that plugs into your PC. They have an Xbox 360 adapter, and you don't have to figure out how to map arcade switches to the keyboard commands that control MAME, and of course, do a lot of wiring. For another $70, you can pick up the X Arcade Tank Stick Plus Trackball, which is pretty much the same thing. The joysticks, the buttons, and a trackball is in between the 2 banks of buttons and joysticks.
Tracky. Is that just a cue ball in there? It looks like one, doesn't it?
It looks like a cue ball. I've always wondered if they originally sourced
I know, if they're basically just cue balls, they might be a little too heavy.
It could be. Well, actually, there's some heft. Traditional, old school, the original trackballs actually were bigger than cue balls. X Arcade builds these things to survive serious episodes of gaming rage. Perhaps you could demonstrate some gaming rage, Veronica. That's not gaming rage. I've seen her in a gaming rage. They offer a lifetime warranty. Quote, in the event that your X Arcade can't take a beating or is defective, X Gaming will either fix it or send you another one. We'll even pay the tab for the shipping charges. Unfortunately.
Yeah, only in the USA.
Sorry, Jose.
Sorry about that. Not in Santiago, Chile. Lo siento.
But you should be able to get the 30-day money-back guarantee.
This needs to be an animated GIF, you guys. I know you can do it. I've seen it before.
Australian Wii players. If you want to get your DIY on, you can buy arcade-quality buttons, like the ones I was snapping together just a second ago. It's essentially like inside all of your arcade buttons, at the bottom of it is a replaceable micro switch. So micro switch snaps into the button holder, and let's listen for the distinctive click. Here, I'll actually put it together properly. And there's the distinctive click, and there's your mechanical switch. X Arcade is a pretty solid arcade bundle. $40 includes 20 buttons, a pair of joysticks, and a 1-player and 2-player start buttons that actually have like these, the 1-player and 2-player on them.
That is awesome.
Very critical. For another $50, you can pick up the controller you need, which is, one example is X Arcade's BYO USB PS2 adapter. And then basically you wire all the micro switches to the adapter, which looks something completely different than this, but this is the basic idea. This is Ultimark's version of it. After you drill and mount the switches in the, basically you lay them out, you drill the holes with a spade bit, you screw these down. Do I have one of the little, there we go. You screw these down into your plywood cover, And then once everything's assembled, then you attach the switches, and it goes on for hours, which is why 100.
So that just completes the circuit, and then that's how you get your.
That's how you get it. Well, but the thing is, right, is you need something. Basically, you need something that translates the on-off of the button to the keyboard speak that MAME expects, because MAME expects keyboard like, a K or an L or W, whatever.
Because it's an emulator.
Yes.
On the PC.
So for $10 less, you can pick up an OptiPack or iPack interface from Ultimark. I think this is the OptiPack, if memory serves. HapControls.com is another really good source of arcade-style buttons, joysticks, and all that good stuff. For example, if you have an older machine and you want to restore it, basically all these buttons will work. If you want to get really serious about building a MAME cabinet, check out System Episodes 24 through 28, where David Randolph, Joey Rabier, and I got our MAME on, which is, this is pretty much all that's left of that.
Now, if you're not into building a MAME cabinet and tracking down the ROMs for your favorite childhood games, there's still lots you can do with that machine, like use Boxy or XMBC to turn it into a media PC to get all your favorite movies, music, and more onto your TV. If you're curious about Linux, download Ubuntu, Fedora, Debian, whatever distro looks good to you, install it, and start exploring the operating system that powers most of the internet. But I would like to try this sometime. Even the joysticks are based on micro switches. That's so cool. Yeah, and actually, it's amazing what you can do with 42,000 switches and a lot of plastic. I've turned old PCs into routers using SmoothWall or IPCOP, MonoWall. Actually, MonoWall really only works with embedded PCs, not really with like a quad. Pentium 4 like you have. Pentium 4, the machine you have, great for a file server or a video jukebox. FreeNAS is a personal favorite. Unraid is pretty awesome. If anybody hasn't checked it out, you should. It runs off of a USB thumb drive, was built with serving media in mind, and it essentially allows you to do parity data protection similar to a RAID 4 type, basically RAID 4 style data parity protection, which is similar to a Drobo. The idea is you basically add drives, and if a drive fails, you can restore the lost data on that drive from the other drives. Very cool. What do you guys do with your old PCs? Yeah, we'd love to see your favorite uses for an old PC. And if a bunch of you email that you're interested in having us walk you through building one of these, we will. I especially, however, favor video requests for a project. So keep them coming. Keep them coming, eh? You know, there are lots of actual businesses that save real time and real money with the help of our sponsor, GoToMeeting. Watch this real story on how one business does it, and don't forget to sign up for a free trial at gotomeeting.com/Tekzilla. That's gotomeeting.com/Tekzilla.
We're a real business, and we save real time and real money with GoToMeeting. We're ACT certified consultants and Microsoft CRM certified. Probably the biggest reason why we use GoToMeeting is for training. Great. And can you see my screen? I can, that's perfect. So one of the first things I wanted to show you is I know you've been getting into all the social media information. It allows me to be more productive. I can serve more clients in a day, and it allows me to reduce my cost as well as reducing the cost for my clients.
Real business saves real time and real money with GoToMeeting. Head over to revision3.com/GoToMeeting for the full story and sign up for a free trial.
Welcome to this week's freebie download pick, a free program that we find useful, fun, or incredibly interesting. This week, VirtualBox. If you've ever found yourself in need of another PC to test a new distro of Linux on or run an old application that only seems to work in a pre-XP version of Windows, you don't need another PC. You need to try out VirtualBox. This handy little app creates a virtual PC inside your Windows, OS 10, or Linux machine, and like any good virtual machine, it replicates everything you'd find in the real PC in software. Network adapters, video and sound cards, hard drive, and even CD/DVD drives. You'll be able to install operating systems and applications and run them as if the operating system was installed directly onto real hardware. You might notice a performance hit, but mostly on the most strenuous applications like gaming. And yes, you can share clipboards between your host and virtual machines. That makes copying and pasting in between your different applications a snap. There's lots more, but you're going to have to download it and check it out for yourself. It's free, people. Just get your virtual machine on with VirtualBox. Building a top-of-the-line PC, you want the fastest processor money can buy? Then you'll be glad Loyd Case joined us today. He's been benchmarking Intel's new Core i7-980X. Okay, what's the story on the new Core i7? Because the processor speed sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's 3.3 gigahertz, so at first blush you don't think there's much change.
How could it be faster?
Built on the 32 nanometer process, you know, the one they did for the new mobile processors a little while back. It's 6 cores, and 12 threads. So if in multi-threaded apps, it's going to be faster just because there's more cores there.
So Photoshop jocks are now probably freaking out.
Oh yeah, Premiere, anybody that's doing that kind of stuff, right? What is all those photo editing, video editing apps, yeah, they're going to love it.
Or if you're like me and you keep like 7,000 browser tabs open in Chrome.
Yes. The other thing though is that it has 12 megs of shared L3 cache. So even stuff that's not heavily multi-threaded but might be cache sensitive will run faster.
When you're looking at this, so gaming is still barely taking 2 cores on most games.
On a lot of games. There's a number of games now, especially ones coming out like Napoleon, Total War, the upcoming game called Ruse, a few others that are heavily multi-threaded. Now, when you say heavily multi-threaded, what does that mean? It means that, you know, for example, in the case of Total War, it spawns off AI threads and things like that. So it may not be heavy use of the CPU, but anything you offload of your main core is probably a good idea.
Because it seems like they always, you know, they're designing games for the fastest processor like 2 years ago.
Right.
So they can hit sort of the sweet spot or the tail end of the sweet spot today.
Well, and with the big titles that are not PC exclusive, Napoleon Total War happens to be PC exclusive. For the big titles that aren't PC exclusive, you have the issue of the limitations of the consoles.
Right.
So.
Well, when they move to 32 nanometer, and it seems like Intel wants to move everything to 32 nanometer, are they gaining any efficiency and performance at this point?
They're gaining efficiency in the sense they can make this thing, they're going to sell this thing for the same price as the past Extreme Editions, right? So it's
that's pretty good.
Basically $1,000 for 2 more cores, 4 more threads. It's 1 billion transistors. You know, it's not any bigger in terms of the die size. So
I'm still like I remember like when GPUs hit 1 billion transistors. I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
At this point, like, is any of the design on the new processors manual, or is it pretty much all computerized at this point?
Intel, well, with the case of the graphics guys, a lot of it is automated, right? They use a lot of automated tools. Intel and AMD on the processor side tends to do a lot of manual layout. That's how they get the high speeds with all these transistors.
Oh, that's pretty crazy. So there's still guys going in there, or men and women going in there actually figuring out where to run the traces.
That's right.
That's a really wild concept. In terms of performance, how does this compare to the previous Core i7?
It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be faster.
Or the previous fastest Core i7 Extreme Edition. Which
was the 975. This one's called the 980X, by the way, the actual part number. It's going to be faster in those multi-threaded things. The other thing that might be faster on is encryption, if your application supports the encryption that's built into it, because the 980X is like the past Arendelle and Clarkdale processors. It's got that new AES encryption engine that Intel added to the system.
Interesting. So, but who's really using that encryption engine at this point?
Well, I think you'll have it happen more and more, especially as the web-based guys take it over. What you're really going to see it initially is on the server side, because they're going to roll that into the SSL stuff really fast.
Oh wow! So they basically allow SSL encryption to be.
Yeah. And then eventually, your security apps on the PC and the desktop side will roll that.
As we lock down every aspect of the PC. So the Core i7-975 Extreme Edition is pretty much. It's Core i7-975.
Was the old one.
Was the old one.
980X is the new one.
So, and you had mentioned, so basically, for a lot of applications, there should be no performance difference between them unless they take advantage of the encryption engine or the extra 2 cores.
Or the extra threads, right.
Now, you mentioned Intel snuck out a new low-end Core i7.
That's right. You know, I was wandering, I didn't get this from Intel PR, I was wandering around our favorite store, Central Computer.
It's a very good place to shop. The one in Santa Clara. Anyway.
Came across a box, Intel box, I was looking at the Intel boxes, and there's something called a 930, and I said, what the heck is this? Core i7 930. Turns out that it's a Core i7, 45 nanometers, same as the old Core i7, it's nothing really different. 3-channel memory, it goes into a socket 1366 motherboard, 2.8 gigahertz. And it's roughly the same price, maybe $10 more than the 920.
Yeah, it's pretty, because like right now the Core i7 860, the 920 and the 930 are within $15 of each other.
That's about right.
What's the difference between the 860 and the 920 and the 930?
The difference between the 8 series i7 and the 9 series i7 is the number of channels of memory.
So 2-channel on the 860.
That's right.
So we should basically just ignore that unless you have some old memory.
Well, no, I mean, 4 gigabytes is going to be most for a lot of people, even gamers.
Right.
I mean, you load it up with 2 gigabyte DIMMs, and you can even put 8 gigabytes in there pretty easily.
Okay, well, and it's actually, I guess, clocked faster than the 920 and the 930.
It's clocked the same as the 930.
Okay.
So the 860 is the same clock speed as the 930.
The 860 is the 930 with 2 channels. The 930 is the 860 with 3 channels. Right. Is the 920 going away?
We don't know yet. I'm going to try and find that out soon. Because it's been sort of the overclocker's darling. It's been
right.
So
I mean, I love my Core i7-920 because they overclock about like 30%.
Right. Oh, the other tidbit of information, back to the 980X for a moment. It's a socket 1366 processor with a BIOS update. If you have an X58 motherboard, you should just be able to drop it in.
Ooh. You know what? I was going to ask you about the overlap between the Core i5 and the Core i7. Is that for another day?
Well, really, in a nutshell, it's hyperthreading. Core i7 has hyperthreading, Core i5s don't. I'm talking desktop processors. We're not going to go down the rat hole that is laptop naming right now.
Oh, we'll get him down that rat hole later on. Lloyd's off to the Game Developers Conference. You give us an update when that's done?
It's going to be done Saturday.
Hopefully we'll get him back in next week to talk about that. You can find Lloyd's work up MaximumPC.com and Antech.com. Do us a favor, follow Lloyd on Twitter @Loyd Case, Twitter.com/@Loyd Case. No, Twitter.com/Loyd Case. I should know this. I've been using Twitter for a while now. Coming up next, Veronica's tracking her every waking and sleeping moment with the Fitbit. She'll explain in just a second. Want to find a job that lets you work on games when you're not playing them? You should look no further than to your friends at Dice.com. It is the place for tech jobs. Search over 50,000 tech jobs at every level and in every field. And yes, there are jobs in gaming. The employers tech pros want to work for, they're on Dice.com. You love the internet, video games, programming, and technology in general? You should register at Dice.com and post your resume today and get started pursuing a career that lets you work hands-on with the type of things we talk about in Tekzilla, like high-performance CPUs. Hey, we just talked to Lloyd about Intel's new 6-core processor. We found a job posted on Dice for a position right here in the Bay Area, high-performance CPU verification engineer. You will definitely need some experience with CPU development and an understanding of CPU design for that job. Of course, that's not the only job on Dice.com. They've got 50,000 listed up there, and there's a lot more than just job listings on Dice.com. Get resume building tips, tools to lift yourself to the top of the pile, and advice to give your tech career a boost. People, start finding your next job today at Dice.com.
Looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, and just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, StillTasty. Picture this, you're hungry, it's well past midnight, and the only thing left in your kitchen is a bag of tortilla chips and an unopened tub of sour cream. Problem is, the use-by date on the sour cream is just over a week ago. Do you take the chance? Now, thanks to StillTasty, you can find out how long the shelf life of your food is. From fruits to poultry, condiments to dairy. If it goes in your kitchen, you need to know how long it will last. Just enter in your food item or browse through the categories. By looking at a simple apple, for example, we learn that it stays good in the pantry for 1 to 3 days, in the fridge for 3 to 4 weeks, and in the freezer, yes, the freezer, for up to 10 to 12 months. But follow the tips for best storage recommendations. Those apples need some prepping before the deep freeze. Plus, if you have questions about how food should be handled, you can even email them for answers. And the Shelf Talk section has even more tips about your favorite foods. So don't waste money on throwing out good food, and don't, well, make yourself sick eating crap that's gone bad. Double check first on StillTasty.com. If there's one thing pretty synonymous with being a geek, it's a love of data.
Analyzing data.
Yes. So when I first heard about the Fitbit, a fitness device that allows you to track the number of steps you take, calories you burn, and even how well you're sleeping at night, I knew I was going to be a fan. Yeah, there are other devices similar to this out there, like the Bodybug and even Nike Plus, but the interface is really my favorite part. Plus, the device itself is so tiny and adorable, I really don't mind having it with me every day. Yeah, so I wear it at night, but we'll get to that shortly. Here are the few basics of how it works. So this is the device itself. It's basically the size of a little Bluetooth headset. It's really light, and it just comes with this little tension clip thing here on the side. And another thing that's really cool is you can see the number of steps you took just by pressing the button here. The number of...
Oh, wow.
That's the number of miles I've walked today.
It's got a display.
Yep, the number of calories you're burning, and your happy flower, which grows depending on how much you walk in a certain amount of time. You clip it to yourself, either on your belt buckle or in your pocket. I like to wear it right in that tiny little change pocket, you know, the tiny little pocket that's on jeans, the extra pocket. You know the one I'm talking about, this guy right here?
Yeah, the watch pocket.
Is that what it is? Oh.
I'm that old.
Something new every day. You are old. Damn. And what it does is it has an accelerometer inside, and it does a good estimation of how many steps you're taking based on the motion that you make when you move. And then whenever you get close to the little dock here, you can either force an upload of data by clipping it into the dock station, or every 15 minutes it tries to upload that data to the website.
Oh, funky.
So here's the dashboard, and this is where you track all your steps and all the data that you're inputting into the website.
Intraday calories.
I'm doing yesterday because today I've been pretty laid back. I haven't done too much activity.
You've been typing.
I've been typing. I've been sitting at my desk all day. But you can see, actually, when I've done the most activity and when I've done the most walking. Right between the hours of 12 p.m. and 8 p.m., I was pretty much out all day in Oakland at the White Elephant Sale, and I was walking around nonstop. And the yellow means that I've been fairly active, as you can see from this pie chart here. Red would be, the pinky red would be very active, so if you're doing any running, it would be able to tell when you're very active. And then most of the time, you're kind of in the lightly active range, which is, you know, walking down the street as any normal person would.
So it really is a super fancy pedometer.
Yeah, it's definitely a pedometer, but I think the main thing that people like to focus on is the website.
Right.
And the fact that you can track it from anywhere and that you can actually share. You can see Ryan and I, we both have Fitbits, and you can compare the number of steps we've taken in any given time. Here at the top is a goal. You can set another goal. You can change that to be, you know, 70,000 here that I have right now, or you can do 10,000 if you're really lazy. 10,000 would be approximately 5 miles worth of walking. And then if you want, you can log specific activities. So you mentioned that I'm going to Pilates. So I can say go to browse activities and then go down to, we'll do sports. We'll go to conditioning exercise. And you can see things like weightlifting. They don't have Pilates yet, but I'm sure they're going to add a bunch more categories once this comes out of,
Could be health club exercise general.
Yeah, we can put that in there.
Training.
And then you enter in the number of time that you're doing it for and your starting time, so it can track all that information
I'm very
as well.
impressed that you didn't enter it in now, that you're waiting until after you've done it, just in case you decide to have a pizza instead or something. It's very honest of you.
Oh, great. So you can do a weight log. So there's my estimate of my weight, so you can see how much I weigh.
You're tiny. And
my BMI. And I don't enter it in all the time because I'm not actively trying to lose or gain any weight.
Right.
So this part of the website I don't use very often.
For somebody like me who's in the process of going from like 235 to 200, that would be a very active portion of the website.
Right. See, now another device that I use is the Y-Things, which is a wireless body scale. So you stand on it and uploads your weight data wirelessly to their website. Now I think what we need is a fitness standard so that all these things could talk to each other and you could have a really comprehensive collection of all your fitness data, like Nike Plus and the Fitbit and a Y-Things. Combine all that data and really see everything. Okay, so you wanted to know about sleep.
Right.
And sleep is a really cool one
Ever
for
since
me.
the very first time I heard Kevin Rose talking about this, I was like, what is it? Is it like, is it telling you if you're restless? Is it telling you if you like, you know, thrash in your sleep? And what exactly is it monitoring when you sleep?
Well, yeah, it uses the same accelerometer technology because that's basically all that's in here.
Right.
And it kind of can tell when you're thrashing around or moving around a lot in your sleep, and they assume that that means that you are being restless.
Generally speaking, if you like, you know, move around a lot at night, you're probably not sleeping.
If you're
really
tossing and
solidly.
turning, it can kind of tell that you're doing that motion, and
Does
then
it
they
like-
assume that means you're not sleeping well.
So does it give you any like suggestions, like you should do breathing exercises or
It
take
does
sleeping
nothing
pills?
like that at all. No,
Really?
it basically just shows you this little graph here that shows your sleep efficiency. And I've been everywhere from between, I'm usually 94 to 99%. I've gotten 100% before, and that means you're like dead to the world. Like you are asleep. And you can see all the times, you're supposed to put it on you when you wear it on a little wristband, like a little black wristband.
You don't like clip it to your
Where would it, no. Where would I clip it, Patrick?
your pajamas.
Yeah. No, you wear it on a wristband, and then you actually hold down the button, and that puts it into sleep mode, and that takes it out of the pedometer style mode. Okay. And it's not something they actually say in that little tiny manual that they give you. There's no user manual on the device because they say it's so simple you don't need one. But you kind of have to figure out that you're not sleepwalking, so you have to put it in the different mode. Yeah, and then you put it on when you get into bed, not when you're planning on falling asleep. So you can see that block of time here that it took me to fall asleep, like approximately 35 minutes, because I like to read before I go to bed. If I do put it on right when I'm hitting the pillow, for me, I go to sleep within 6 minutes sometimes. I learned it, and then I had a little restlessness right here. And then last night, actually, right here, that's when the chick downstairs started watching a movie super, super loud and woke my ass up. So I can show that to her and be like, look what you did. You disturbed. I could have gotten 100% sleep efficiency.
Are you going to keep it? I mean, outside of apparently when she removes it so she doesn't feel guilty about
I'm not going to remove it. I just have to realize that my data is not going to be as good as usual.
Okay.
I say I love it. I
you
think
are
it's great.
actually, because when you get that, my data's not going to be good. When you get that, you have your competitive thing going.
I know. It's when they turn something that you do day to day into like a point achieving or an achievement getting.
Plus, you
thing.
and Ryan are tracking each other.
Yeah. Bottom line, I love this thing. I'm definitely going to stick with it. It's so easy. Why not?
Cool.
Yeah. And it's only 99. It's $99. You have to make a little bit of a money investment, but
So
it's
a
cool.
month of a gym membership in many parts of the country.
Exactly.
Wow. Coming up next, more viewer questions and more on Veronica's sleep habits. But first, Squarespace, people. I suck at making websites, that's why I don't really have one. My wife, however, sophisticated developer. I had her look at Squarespace because my word is useless, and she actually was impressed. It's a really nice publishing system. It's designed for everybody from the newbie to the expert. No coding is required. It's a WYSIWYG. Basically, you can move your existing site over, whether it's WordPress, Blogger, TypePad, Movable Type, bring it inside of there. And Squarespace is not just a tool for creating websites, but it's a hosting service too. They've got an import tool that'll actually migrate your posts, your comments, your tags, your authors, and your media. And of course, you can create new ideas and integrate new elements into your web page with a minimum of pain and suffering, and something I like, given that I can't code my way out of a paper bag, no code. Now, we got a code you will want to remember. It's a discount code. Now, when you try out Squarespace, you try it out for a couple of weeks, and then after that, if you decide to sign up and pay for it, we want you to remember this, Tekzilla. That promo code gets you 10% off your order for the lifetime. As long as you're using Squarespace, you'll get 10% out. Check it out, people, squarespace.com.
Tim recently sent us in this email from the other side of the world. He writes, I'm a student who cycles to and from university every day with my laptop. I recently purchased an Asus UL30VT-A1, which is absolutely freaking awesome. I was wondering whether I should swap the 500 gigabyte hard drive it came with for, say, an 80 gigabyte SSD to protect the contents from all the bumps. I already have a desktop at home with plenty of storage space, so dropping the extra storage space is no problem. As I said, I'm a student, so money is hard to come by. What do you think? Tim in Auckland, New Zealand.
I think you're reaching for an excuse to buy a new hard drive, Tim. A fabulous new solid-state disk drive, which have cool guy factor, or cool girl factor, or cool woman factor, or cool dude factor. Look, solid-state drives, they're phenomenal. Are they more resistant to abuse? Yeah, but I gotta say, in like decades of riding around with these little hard drives inside of my notebooks, inside of my backpack, as long as your backpack has a padded envelope inside of it, and you don't say, fling it down a flight of stairs like the front stairs at Columbia University, which happened to a friend of mine. Somebody bumped into them, and they had they had a giant bag with like 30 pounds of textbooks inside of it. And this is back when notebooks were
swamped them.
They bumped up against them, and the notebook slid off of their nylon jacket and bounced down the stairs.
Oh no!
And like they hit them really hard because it's not like the stairs are really steep.
And I mean, you've been doing this stuff for centuries.
Centuries.
Because you're so old, and if you haven't had any trouble with it, I mean, that's a pretty good seal of approval.
The Seagate, Western Digital, whoever's designing your hard drive, they basically figured out back in the Stone Age when they were writing on these with frickin' sticks, is that they park the head. As soon as there's movement, or as soon as you shut it down, the head gets parked. It gets parked in a safe section of the drive. That way, the heads don't bounce up against the platters. It takes a lot of work to damage one of these, and nowadays, actually, most systems are set up so that they detect motion. There's accelerometers, much like the Fitbit, inside the notebook, and it like panics. If there's motions, you know what I mean? It's not like you're riding around with your backpack capturing data. If you are, then get
that
the
would
SSD.
Be weird.
Yeah.
And also kind of interesting. I'd like to see how that works out.
Like you're live capturing or something like that with a camera.
People
yeah,
do that.
The SSD is going to be more resistant to abuse, but it's actually really hard to kill a notebook hard drive. And let's say you're using an Apple notebook where they conveniently put the hard drive directly under the part of the notebook front you hit with your fist.
Right in the punching area.
Yeah.
That's so you could just having the hard drive right in the punching zone is just generally a bad idea.
We've both read about this.
Oh, we've read about it.
We've never experienced it personally.
No. Oh, but another good thing about SSD drives are the boot up times.
Yes.
Which are sick.
Obscene. Imagine going from like 30-second boot time to 6-second boot time, or a minute to like 10 seconds. I sometimes reboot my gaming machine, my big fat honking Core i7 machine, just because it takes like 30 seconds now because I have an SSD on it. It's cool. Applications, it depends on whether it's bound by CPU performance or if it's bound by I/O, basically moving data back and forth off the drive. If it's bound, like if you're like doing something crazy like writing a file, yeah, it'll be much faster on the SSD drive. I don't know why I'm pointing to
the regular hard drive when I say that, but you know, pretend
we don't happen to have an SSD drive on hand right now.
Well, it's really fun. I just bought this because I have to fix my work machine because of an incident not related to anything Veronica and I were talking about earlier involving stuff, but because I upgraded my notebook drive and threw away the old dead Apple drive, which actually doesn't have anything to do with going like this. It died for natural causes, and instead of returning it for what do they call that thing with the thing, and they give it warranty.
I knew if you just talked through it, you'd get it eventually. You just got to talk it out.
That's so sad. Battery life, it can kind of help. I think Anam was saying like 10% on the early drives, 10-15%. The screens consume most of the battery life on your notebook. You know, I'm thinking about actually putting an SSD drive in my wife's notebook.
Yeah, why not?
Because
I mean, they're a little more on the expensive side.
Yeah, they're like 2.5. This is 500 gigabytes, $95.
For a regular hard drive.
For a regular hard drive, like $100. For a 2.5-inch, like a 1.5 terabyte drive, 3.5-inch big desktop drive is like $100 now. 500 gigabytes, like $100, $105, depending on where you're shopping. Intel SSD drive is going to be $260 or so.
They're still up there, but
for 80 gigabytes.
Yeah, as we've said time and time again, the prices of these things are going to drop as time goes on, but
really
not
by
quite
the end of this
there.
year.
Not quite there yet in terms of hitting that like mass market adoption price point for most people.
Yeah, if you look, eat ramen. Just remember to take multivitamins so you don't starve to death. Save your money, and closer to Christmas will be an awesome time. You're going to get like a vastly larger hard drive for considerably less cash because Intel and Micron are bringing new fabs online, basically just to build SSD drives for you, Tim. So just hold.
Well, no sooner did we publish last week's show with my Pogoplug review, speaking of saving some cash, all of you started emailing us with alternatives. The most interesting was this one from James. He writes, Opera has Opera Unite, which allows you to share your files over the internet. It does pretty much the same thing as Pogoplug, except it's free. You just need to have it running on your PC. Well, this is very true. Let's take a quick look at how it works. Make sure you have Opera installed, of course, and then you want to go to the Unite tab here on the left-hand nav. If you don't already have one, you're going to need to set up a user account and password. Then just choose which applications you want to use or install the ones that you want. So we can see here we've got the media player app installed, the photo sharing app installed, and the media server. You also have to pick a dedicated folder on your hard drive that you're going to put all your media in, or you can select which folders you already have that contain all your music or videos or files that you want to be able to share.
Do we need Opera at the other end to be able to access all this?
No, you can use any browser in order to view the media, the content that's on here. So you don't, the person receiving the files does not need to have.
So the iPhone will still work with it?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I think the iPhone would work. I haven't tested that, actually.
Oops, sorry.
Well, that's okay. We'll test it out at some other point. So here's the photo sharing. I just made one file and stuck all the media in there. And you can see this little sample photo. And then you get a link that you can share on Twitter or Facebook or any other of the file sharing sites or link sharing sites or email, whatever you need. And then if you want to be able to edit or add to this content, the person needs a password. And so like here we have a password for, where's the photo sharing?
I'm still tripping at the idea of a browser that has a server with an administrative, like, remote access account built into it by the people. Like, Opera is like, you guys have a lot of time to code at Opera. You amaze me sometimes.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so here we can either make this public or we can do private with a password, and they can send messages to the owner of the account if they want to. And then you just click on the file. You can either download it, or if you go to the media streamer, isn't that nice? The interface looks a little bit different when you're coming at it from the other side, but this is what you see on your side of things. Yeah, it's pretty secure, and you're basically limited to whatever size your hard drive is, because you're not plugging in external hard drives like you would with a Pogoplug.
Well, you could.
You're just using this as... You could, yeah. I don't know how good the streaming would be if you did it that way. It might be as fast as the Pogoplug, but I don't know if they somehow optimize the streaming within the Pogoplug unit versus just having it on your laptop or PC.
You could put multiple SSD drives inside your desktop PC to maximize. Obviously.
Yeah, he's getting ahead of himself. If you're worried about the bandwidth usage, though, you can set restrictions in the advanced setting menu. And best of all, it's free. You can learn more at unite.opera.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't get enough of movies after the Oscars this past weekend, then tune into HD Nation. Why? Well, because Robert Heron and I live for the movies, and we celebrate movies in creating the perfect home environment for enjoying them. Every Tuesday, revision3.com/HDNation. Please do me a favor and check it out. And for everybody watching, we live on your questions, so email us, Tekzilla at revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos, you ask us, we'll do it. But we need those emails, so don't be shy. Send them into Tekzilla at revision3.com.
Even better, send us in a video question. Think of all the fun you can have and the admiration of all your friends and family when they see your mug on our show. Just keep it to 15 seconds, upload to YouTube, and send us a link in an email with video question in the subject line. And as always, you can visit our forums at revision3.com/forum. Share your thoughts, ideas, or comments with other fans of the show. Thank you guys so much for watching.
I'm Patrick Dorton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Till next time, you've been watching Tekzilla.
Bye.